The Spurs and Wolves hook up tonight for Game 5 in San Antonio. Let's preview the game and then ask, is Minnesota the biggest test so far for the Spurs in this postseason run? Welcome back to another episode of Spurs In Focus right here on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Amazon Podcast. The list goes on and on. Go subscribe right now. Don't forget about the Substack, Spurs In Focus Substack, completely free. Go sign up, be part of the crew. We thank y'all for making Spurs In Focus your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. This should be your first listen, first watch, every chance you get. My name is Jeff Garcia, a longtime Spurs writer in San Antonio. And what are we talking about today? Game 5 is tonight in San Antonio. Can the Spurs go up 3-2? We're going to be talking about that. Key adjustments. What have we been seeing so far throughout the 4-game series so far from both sides of the court and both sides teams as well? And then ask kind of a big question here. Is this Minnesota squad that the Spurs are facing, is this really their toughest test so far? Is this, we bring it up because they kind of handled OKC, and we're going to presume OKC is going to advance. And should the Spurs advance, they handled them. So maybe Minnesota is perhaps the toughest test so far. And then obviously we're going to continue to react to the elbow heard around the world when Victor Wembanyama just lost his cool a bit. Not a bit, a lot of it. And threw an elbow at Naz Reid. Let's go bring in our guest. He is our Spurs In Focus playoff reporter. He also writes for Clutch Points. You see that guy right there. He is Mr. Hector Ledesma. He's on next at Hector Ledesma TV. Hector, welcome back, and thank you for all your reports from the Frost, man. We appreciate it.
No, of course, man. Happy to provide any coverage I can.
Yeah, we definitely, fans love it too. You're bringing some comments on the YouTube side of things saying, oh, we love this. Thank you for the added stuff. So fans definitely appreciate it. Hector, let's start off the show again. It's still a buzz right now. Everybody's still talking about a Wemby losing his cool, throwing an elbow at Naz Reid, got himself ejected in the first half of Game 4. What was your thoughts on it before we look at tonight's game and the overall series?
Initial thought is still the thought that I have now is I understand the frustration, but you can't unload an elbow like that and expect to get away with it. Now, because it happened early in the second quarter, I think that rules out from the get-go. To me, it ruled out any worry about will he be suspended for the next game. That was never. I saw the questions flying around and I was like, there's no way he gets suspended for the next game, especially given his lack of history for doing this. All that being said, Jeff, and I certainly stand by my initial thought and what I posted on both Twitter and the professional Facebook page and threads, and the whole nine. I still stand by all of that. I've since seen a couple of different little close-up angles, right? And when you slow something up, when you put it in still, it's tough to tell, right? Because it lacks the context. It's just one frozen picture in time. But if Naz Reid was kind of grabbing or elbowing at his private parts, like,
come on, yeah.
I still stand by you can't unleash it. Like, if it's January, fly the elbow, swing the elbow.
Yeah, sure.
This scenario, you still can't do it. But how many of us in an instant where somebody does something to you just instinctively, regardless of the moment, and not only just physical, but in words too, right? Or in actions, you just react. Again, are we kind of talking about a moot point because at the end of the day, he swung the elbow so obviously? Yeah, maybe it's moot. But I will say that they've been very physical with this.
They have.
Extremely physical. And for all the talk about this is playoff basketball, it is their sole purpose. Not only the T-Wolves, not only the Blazers, not only the Thunder, if the Spurs should win this series, it is their sole mission for all of those teams.
Oh, yeah.
Beat him up. It's very similar to the Jordan rules. You have to rough him up. It is a strategy. They're not treating De'Aaron Fox the same way. They're not treating Dylan Harper the same way. Stephon Castle's getting some the physical end of things because he's a physical player. But they are making a concerted effort to do this with Victor.
Yes.
And so I understand the frustration on Vic's part. And I understand, hey, you've got to call this both ways, or you've got to call things on their end, because there's a difference between physical and dirty. And come on, even if Naz Reid didn't kind of elbow the private area or grab at the private area or whatever, even if he didn't, I think it's safe to say, right, Jeff, within these first 4 games, somebody's done something along those lines at some point. It's playoff basketball. That stuff kind of happens.
Yeah.
You deal with it. That doesn't mean you have to like it, and that doesn't mean you don't react in a certain way. You want to react in a way where you have a flying elbow across the chin that's on national TV cameras. And so that's kind of the nuanced part of it. If I can add one more thing to this, Jeff.
Go ahead.
In the aftermath, hours after the elbow, I've seen a lot of the national talking heads not only criticize Wemby for being reckless and careless and how could he not know that it was going to draw an ejection, but they've also criticized Mitch Johnson.
Oh, interesting.
How can he defend this action? Okay. I think the criticism of Vic is fair. Context, right? Playoff series. You have a chance to go up 3-1. I get it. On Mitch Johnson's part, what is Mitch Johnson's job? His job,
protect his boy. Yes.
His job is to make sure that his guys are in the best position to win. And within that, his job is to get his superstar players back at all times. Mitch Johnson's job is not NBA PR. And so for anybody I hear talking about how can Mitch Johnson defend this, how can he let it go, they're acting like Wemby was running down the court, looked at Anthony Edwards, made a beeline for Anthony Edwards, and then shoved him into the scorer's table or something.
Sure.
That kind of stuff is like, okay, no, come on now. There's no place in the NBA for that. An elbow, you don't want to see it, but that is physical, men playing sports at the highest level with everything on the line. That kind of stuff is going to happen. So this notion that it's not defendable, that it's inexcusable, that his head coach, come on, man, that's not his job. Just like it wasn't my job to be a 100% Spurs homer when I saw the Wemby elbow, and I went on social media and I posted that is a flagrant 2. It is. Spurs fans, you may not like it. Spurs fans, you're right in that they've been banging on him and holding him and clinching him and this and that, and there's not being called. Yes, but that is a textbook flagrant 2. Why did I do that? Because it's my job. It's not. I'm in that moment. I'm not looking at through the lens of a guy who grew up here and grew up loving Spurs. I'm looking at as a reporter who covers
black and white,
Spurs, the NBA. And if I can't be trusted, then I can't be any good at my job. And so that is my lens. That is my view for what I have to approach. This is Mitch Johnson's lens. His job is not to be the ethical arbiter of all things basketball. He has to defend his guys. So for anybody going after Mitch in terms of how can he defend this, no. He has to get up and say, Vic has to protect himself if the rest aren't going to do it. A man has to stand up and do what he has to do in certain moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mitch Johnson definitely did that as well. Now, he did not condone, Naz Reid getting hurt or possibly injured. He made that very clear. But he did say he didn't blame Vic for doing that and that he had to protect himself. And there's video after video of Wolves, not just in game 4, just throughout the series.
Right.
Of them really being physical with them. And credit to Wemby and Mitch. They were not saying much until it came to a head in game 4. But as of this recording, by the way, everybody, the NBA has not said anything. I don't think he'll get suspended. I think it maybe a fine is coming his way at most. But I agree with Mitch, Hector, when he said anything beyond just the ejection is ridiculous. Right. It's ridiculous. And I agree with him. All right. Well, that being said, we were talking about game 5, but you kind of let's talk about the series so far. Before we get into I got the game tonight, we hit it on the head. It's a physical series. It's very, very physical. Wemby's getting the brunt of it, but you mentioned Castle, Carter Bryant tends to get physical with the team. You get in a jawing match with Wolves players. Everybody's into it right now.
Hey, Jeff, can I say a little something about Carter Bryant real quick?
Go ahead.
after everything I just said right now about doing my best to look at this through an objective lens, tell me, man, am I wrong? Are there a different set of rules for Carter Bryant in this series?
Oh, yeah.
It sure feels like Carter.
Yeah.
It's everyone's allowed to do everything except for kids.
Yeah.
Like it's to the point where I'm fighting myself because I'm like, hey man, like I'm trying not to be a bias here, but it sure seems like there's a different whistle for Curtis Bryant in this series.
Yeah.
Blame it on the rookie thing, whatever. Although Harp's a rookie too, I don't know, but there's just something very weird to me that's standing out, especially in this series about Carter.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I guess the name of the game so far through 4 games is physicality, and whoever dishes out the most physicality likely wins the game. And so far through this series, Hector, are we there yet? Are we saying the last 2, maybe 3 games, wherever the series goes, it's kind of a coin flip now, game to game? Like Spurs win, okay, sure, yeah, expected that. Wolves win, okay, yeah, expected that. It feels like that. I don't feel like if the Wolves were to beat San Antonio tonight, like, oh my God, look at this, shocker, shock the world. I think it's like, yeah, that's about right. Or if Spurs win, it's, yeah, that's about right. Are we at a coin toss now?
I don't think so, Jeff.
Okay.
I think the Spurs, I look at specifics. Game 1, De'Aaron Fox and Vic are awful offensively. And they still have there's still an open Julian Champagnie 3 away from winning game 1. They lose Vic for essentially 3 full quarters. And they're still in it in the final minutes, seconds, thanks to that little flurry at the end, final seconds in game 4. I think when completely healthy, and again, in fairness to Minnesota, Ant is not 100%, but Ant is still pretty darn good at 80% or whatever he is. Okay. But I think all things being equal in this series, I think your takeaway through 4 games is the Spurs are in a better position, especially with 2 of these next 3 at home. That being said, is Minnesota good enough to win game 5 tonight in San Antonio? If you say anything but yes, considering the Wolves have been to 2 straight conference finals, then you're kidding yourself. Yes, they can very much win a game 5 in San Antonio. They are that good. Ant is that good. And then you got the scary notion of going up there in game 6. And so, yes, the T-Wolves can still win this series. That should not shock anybody. Would it surprise me, given what I've seen these first 4 games? And mind you, Jeff, you might remember, I know you have a lot of different people on, but I've kind of like been on the conservative end with the Spurs all year long.
Yeah,
when we talked about before the quarterfinal of the NBA Cup, I was like, they might lose to the Lakers before the first round against the Blazers. I think this would go 6, where in truthfulness, if Vic doesn't get the concussion, the Spurs probably sweep that series.
Sweep them, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I've been on the conservative end, and this is me saying I think they've shown through 4 games in this series they are the better team. But that is not synonymous with the Wolves cannot win this series, not in any way, shape, or form. So the long way of answering your question, Jeff, I don't think it's a coin flip. I don't think it's even. I still expect the Spurs to win this series. But yeah, they got their hands full, especially with Ant on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and for me, through 4 games going into tonight, for me, it's just in most of the games. Remember, there's one game was a blowout, completely San Antonio Spurs. So if you take away that game, it's close. It's super close. It comes down, as Harper said after game 4, the little things. And you're seeing the little things add up, usually whether Minnesota wins or the Spurs win. So, yeah, there it is. That's what I'm looking at. I go, just how on the court, it's like experience versus youth. It's talented team Spurs versus team that's gone to the conference final. I mean, there are just so many X factors in this series that which one will win out. We'll see, but hopefully the Spurs get the W tonight in game 5. But we're talking with Hector Ledesma. He is with Clutch Sports. He's on X at Hector Ledesma TV. He also helps us out here, Spurs In Focus, with the Frost games, Spurs playoff reports, great videos. Fans are definitely loving it. And make sure to follow him on X, again, at Hector Ledesma TV. Let's take a break and talk about game 5. See, Hector, that's what I hope that Victor does to the Wolves tonight in Game 5. Little spin kick there. And
Here you go. There, let's good kick. There you are, waiting for it.
exactly. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Spurs in Focus. And now let's get into Game 5. That is tonight. It's all about adjustments, game to game. And Hector, let me start things off here. Let me give you my adjustments here. Let me pull them up here so you can read them here. I got to see Champagne have a game, man. Yeah. That's my first adjustment. It's almost like if Champagne is on, this is a high percentage the Spurs are going to win. Need him to knock down those threes. Look, he's been doing a phenomenal job in other intangibles, rebounding, securing second chance opportunities, playing good defense. But, man, I need to see that 3-shot fall tonight in Game 5. Number 2, control Minnesota's second chance points. I bring that up, Hector, is because for the whole series, it is actually the Wolves that have a dominant edge in second chance points. You look at now for the series, I got it here. Let me pull it up here. They averaged nearly 24 second chance points to the Spurs 13. That's a huge edge. I got to see that come down a bit in the Spurs' favor. And finally, fourth period scoring. The Wolves, again, they dominate as far as scoring in the fourth. They averaged 33 points in the final frame to the Spurs 29. That little edge is giving them the Wolves a chance in clutch time. I'm going to leave this up there for a little while longer, Hector. Your thoughts on these Game 5 adjustments?
Well, the good thing is barring any shocking news between now and when this airs,
right,
and assuming that Victor does play, I think he helps take care of number 3, right?
Okay.
Number 1, you're absolutely right, Jeff. It's not a coincidence that when Julian couldn't miss was the Game 2 routes, right? When Julian's on and the other guys are hitting their threes as well, Devin shot it at a pretty decent clip from beyond the arc, not only in this series but in these playoffs, really for the better part of the year. When De'Aaron is hitting his threes, when they are almost impossible to beat. And so you hit it right on, and they're getting good looks, so it's a matter of knocking those down and continuing to generate those looks, right. Being able to get to the rack and being able to kick out because of all the guys they have who can go downhill. That's going to help that. Second chance points is the thing that's the sticking point, Jeff, is Minnesota's so big and long and physical that's the toughest one of these 3. And I'm wondering if you're the Spurs, if you kind of you live and die with that a little bit because you want to get out and run. And by getting out and run, you're leaving less bodies down there to either block out or grab just flat out rebounds. And so I'm wondering if maybe that's a little bit of a sacrificial lamb. Like, in other words, it's something they already do well. We're not going to stop it. We don't have the horses, the bodies to stop it. Right. What if we turn it into a weakness of theirs by getting out and running them because they're bigger, because they're longer, because they don't have as fleet of foot at the guard position across the board, certainly as the Spurs do. Maybe that's why they've been trying to turn these first 4 games into a track meet. And even after makes, if you notice, the Spurs are going. Like right after the ball goes through the hoop, and they're off. And so I think that maybe that's part of something that they sacrificed a little bit, is giving up a little bit of leverage on those rebounds, because let's face it, after Wemby and Cornette, there's really nobody else down there. Carter Bryant to a certain extent. Devin's done a very nice job of rebounding, but that's my point. When Devin Vassell and all of his 6'6", maybe 6'7", and that thin frame, when he's like your 4th best rebounder, it kind of tells you where you are in terms of, against a team with that size, where you are in terms of a rebounding battle. So I think they got calculated risks that they've taken.
Yeah, exactly. What are your adjustments, little keys to the game you like to see happen tonight?
Well, I think they need having Vic back is going to be to be Captain Obvious. Having Vic back is going to be huge defensively, because it's not a coincidence, Jeff, that the first 3 games of this series, even in the Game 1 win for Minnesota, they only scored 104 points, and then they were under 100 in games 2 and 3. Well, look at the total in Game 4. Coincidence that Vic wasn't there for 3 quarters? No. And so they need to get back to doing what they've done. Is Vic is allowed to roam defensively. He's down there, essentially eliminating the paint, and it makes the anything on the three difficult for Minnesota because the drive and kick isn't really there because the Spurs defenders are able to stay home on their shooters. So that's going to be key in terms of an adjustment you get by just simply having Vic back in there. Something else that's interesting, Jeff, and I'm trying to figure out where I fall on this. If you're Steph Castle,
okay,
and you fully realize that the refs are not, look at that. I mean, look at how he's.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Had it ready for this.
Like, I don't. Maybe this was called a foul, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It sure was.
I wouldn't be surprised if it would. What if it wasn't? And that goes to what I'm gonna say. If you're gonna go down there and constantly get beat up and not come away with anything, including a basket, I'm wondering if he just begins to rely on his mid-range jumper a little bit more. He's got a good one. He's developed it, or maybe a little bit more of that maybe a little bit more of that hesitation when he gets to the free throw line, and then go, and then make the defender have to either grab you or do something, make it obvious out of the realm of just the obvious pushing or the subtle pushing, I should say, that they're obviously let go through these first 4 games. But I'm wondering if you're Steph, if you make a little bit adjustment because he's such a physical player.
He is.
And it's almost like his physicality is being negated. Like the Wolves are benefiting from the fact that he's such a physical player because they're allowed to be physical with him back. So it's like, if I'm getting into a fight, Jeff, if I'm getting into a shoving match with a guy that's much bigger than I am, and I'm allowed to lean on him more than he's allowed to lean on me, I've got an advantage. And I think that Timberwolves are doing that. They're being allowed to lean on him more so than he's getting the calls that he normally gets. And so because of that, I'm wondering if you see maybe a little bit of adjustment in terms of what he does once he gets into the lane. You don't want to tell Stephon Castle to stop being aggressive and stop going into the lane. You don't tell a dog to stop barking, right? So that said, does he change the approach once he gets into the lane? Rises up a little bit, maybe looks to get rid of it, or if someone shifts over a little quicker, mid-range jumper, whatever it may be. But I'm wondering, at one point, you kind of say to yourself, man, I'm not getting any calls whatsoever. It is worth giving this thing a second look.
Yeah. And so far,
second thought.
Well, through this series, he's averaging nearly 5 fouls a game, though. That's the trick, though. He's up there. Yeah. Actually, it came down a bit because he only had 4 fouls in game 4. Now he's averaging 4.5. But there was for the first 2 games heading into first 3 games heading into game 4, he was averaging a solid 5 fouls a game.
Yeah.
So
that's he fouled out of one of them, right?
He fouled out of one. Yeah. He's doing great. You mentioned, yeah. For this series, he's averaging 17.8 points per game, 4.8 rebounds in 32 minutes. He's shooting, let's see, I got it here. Yeah, inside the 3-point line, 48%. So there's that. 3-point shot, 40%, but he's taking about 4 a game. He's hitting about 2, so ish.
Yeah.
So that's there. But he's a +8 whenever he's on the court for San Antonio. Any other adjustments before we ask kind of a big picture question here?
I think honestly, Jeff, I think it's just a matter of De'Aaron's had good looks. One other thing that I've noticed is Keldon has struggled in this series. I think because of personnel. He's not able to be big body against those guys. Yeah. Because they're big and they're long and they're physical as well. And so I think maybe they rein him a little bit. Maybe he hangs around the 3-point line. Maybe he cleans up around the glass, things along those lines. But this notion where he's got to attack every time he gets the ball at the top of the key, maybe you look for better options in this series.
All right. Well, there you have it. Those are our key adjustments for Game 5. Hector, I'm gonna say Spurs get a win, but another nail biter. I think it's gonna be another nail biter. Even with Vic, I'm expecting Vic just to go nuclear tonight. I really am. But I expected him to just like, oh, okay, here we go. Wolves, you had your chance, you took advantage of it. Now I'm back, so I'm expecting a monster game from him, but nevertheless, still a close game. What about you, Hector?
Because my gut has been not good.
So go against it then.
My gut is the same thing. It's a close game 5. So because I'm going to go against it, I say the Spurs another, maybe not a 37 or whatever it was, 35. What did they win by game 2? Whatever it was. It's 38. It's not going to be a 38-point winning. It's not going to be a 38-point win, but it won't be particularly close either. I'll say that game 5 Spurs win.
Yeah. Yeah, Hector, sorry, a 30-point blowout. Yes, he's not as a 38, but nevertheless. Hey, Hector, before I let you go and put a wrap on this show, kind of a big picture question here. So the Spurs kind of waltzed through the Portland series, 5 gentlemen sweep. Here we are in a physical, battle-tested Wolves Spurs team that's learning. I mean, look at Mitch Johnson and Edwards got into it in the last game. I mean, it is that heated, this game. The other side of the bracket, Thunder kind of been on easy street, taking care of Suns, Lakers are kind of no problem right now. So we're going to assume they're going to advance. It's safe to say that, right? Yeah. But should the Spurs advance and they look back at this Minnesota series, could you say the semifinals were going against the Wolves was the toughest test for them? This was their growing up phase in the postseason. You think there's going to be a lot they're going to take into the Western Conference Finals should they advance?
Yes, there'll be a lot that they can take in should they advance. And yes, it would have been a huge learning experience and a good experience, but no, it will not be their toughest test.
Interesting.
Oklahoma City is still, and I get the Spurs not only beat them, but beat them pretty convincing in 3 convincing fashions. You beat that team in a neutral site in a game that means something.
Yeah.
That team's 24-1 or 25-1, whatever they were. You beat them pretty good at home, and then you beat them at their place in a nationally televised Christmas game. The Spurs took it to them. I totally get that. Honestly, Jeff, I said throughout the season, I have maintained this. I have said several times, if you take parameters, if you take context away from Spurs Thunder and you just watch them play this year, you would come away thinking the Spurs are the better team. Like, for real. That being said, we don't live in a bubble. You can't take context and parameters away. And so I think Oklahoma City right now, I think in the playoffs are a different animal. I think they're playing well right now. You mentioned the fact that they've had cakewalks against Phoenix and the Lakers. Yes, Phoenix was technically an 8th seed, right? Even though they finished with the 7th best record.
Right.
They were the 8th seed. And yes, the Lakers don't have Luka. I get it. So the Thunder should be steamrolling. But the Thunder are doing what the Thunder should be doing, right? Like they're beating these teams with ease. There's nothing through their first, as of this taping of the show, through their first 7 games of the playoffs, not once that makes you think, maybe a little kind of a kink in the armor there, like, is there something going on here? Like, do we? No. They're defending champs. No matter what you thought of the run last year, no matter what you thought of the finals and Halliburton and how healthy he was and the whole deal, they're defending champs. They've got no matter what you think of Shea, one of the 3 best players in the league today. Probably going to be MVP. It is, and you look beyond that, the depth that they have.
Yeah,
that is going to be, should the Spurs win this series, that is going to be a Herculean effort to knock off that team in a 7-game series. Yeah. If it's football and it's 1 game, I like the Spurs' chances a lot. Yeah. If it's best of 3, I like the Spurs' chances a lot. Best of 7 is where I think maybe it tends to even out, because I think the longer series go, the more things kind of tend to even out, and depth and kind of championship pedigree and kind of those types of things tend to rise to the top more often than in shorter series. The Spurs will definitely have a shot to win that series. Not what I'm saying, don't get me wrong, but it's going to take a huge effort to win that series. Whereas in this series, I think they are the better team, and it's taking big efforts from Minnesota to beat the Spurs, hence only beating the Spurs by 2 when both Vic and De'Aaron were terrible offensively and barely hanging on to beat the Spurs in a game in which Victor missed 3 quarters.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at the Thunder team; they look different in a good way for Thunder fans than they did during the regular season.
Yeah.
Now, think about this too; they're doing all this, and yes, I get it. It's Suns, it's the Lakers, but without their second best player, well, arguably their
without Jay Williams,
without Jay Williams, yeah,
Absolutely.
they just look like a different animal than they look when the Spurs face them. And even remember one of those games the Spurs won, that was against like practically like their reserves and their
I didn't even count that one in the 3 that I took us through, because there was the 3 and then there was the one in Oklahoma City where the Thunder finally looked like the Thunder a little bit. But I remember tweeting that night, because I think in the first half of that 4th game, it was close in Oklahoma City.
It was.
The 3rd quarter, the Thunder blew it open. And I remember tweeting, it took the Thunder 15 quarters against the Spurs to do what they do to everybody else in 1 or 2 quarters. Like, because the first 3 games, the Spurs had so thoroughly either held them at bay or dominated them. And by the time you got to game 4 and the second half of that, that's when the Thunder finally kind of thundered, and so I remember saying that night, it stuck out. So I'm not even counting that 5th game, back here in San Antonio where the Oklahoma City rested everybody. Now, yes, that game was closer in the 4th than you wanted it to be, but can you really put stock into that? For any comment that the OKC fan wants to make about, oh, you barely beat our G League players, whatever. Okay, fine. But you really want to put stock into that? Like, really, is that really what you want to kind of hang your hat on? I guess though, when the Spurs regulars beat their regulars 3 out of 4 times, I guess maybe you're looking for anything. But before going off on that tangent, I think we hear the term, locked in all the time, Jeff. I think the Thunder right now are locked in. That doesn't mean they're unbeatable, especially by a team that got them 3 times in the regular season, but they're locked in.
Yeah, and don't forget, the Thunder, should the Spurs meet them, would have home court advantage. So if it does go 7, that 7th game is in their gym, not at the Frost. And speaking of the Frost, Hector Ledesma, that guy, he will have a report from Game 5 later on Spurs In Focus. That'll be at the Substack and at the YouTube page. So looking forward to that. He'll bring you questions that he asks on behalf of Spurs In Focus to the players, coach, whoever he gets, and we'll have it here for you. Seriously, Hector, those things are great, what you've been putting out for us, buddy. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. No, it's my pleasure. It's part of, it's part of the duty, right? Going in there and trying to get answers and often trying to get answers that aren't just kind of like your standard normal,
right?
We try to do our best, to kind of put that together and give fans an insight into what the Spurs are thinking.
Absolutely. He is on X, everybody, at Hector Ledesma TV. He also writes with Clutch Points, so many other things that he does. Hector, I mean, how do you do it, man? I always ask you this every show, man. How do you do it all? How do you juggle that?
You know what, Jeff? You figure out a way, because at the end of the day, you always realize that being busy is way better than the alternative. Knock on wood. Not that I have any real wood around me right now, but yes, it's better than the alternative, and so I do my best not to complain. Yes, the lack of sleep and all of that stuff, especially when you've got a 13-year-old at home and you're running around, and it catches up with you. Yeah, and I don't want to make it seem like whatever, but you have time to worry about that later, right? There's rest later. Being busy is a blessing, the way I look at it. So thank you for that, Jeff. But it's neat to be able to do these different things.
Absolutely. By the way, happy belated Mother's Day to your wife there.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I know she'll appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Hector Ledesma, everybody, give him a follow on X at Hector Ledesma TV. Once again, he'll have a report from Game 5 later on today, if not tomorrow morning.
And also, Jeff, want to say kudos to you for thinking about this and thinking outside the box to bring your viewers and your listeners a Spurs In Focus report from there at the arena. So many folks have podcasts and great, whatever. But, you are differentiating yourself from taking it inside that podium room, right? Like, what happens right after the game? What are these guys thinking? What are they taking going into, especially in the playoffs now? What are they taking going forward? And the fact that you were able to think about that and say, you know what, I want to incorporate that into my show. I think it gives a different look from anybody who's trying to do, this the podcasting thing. I think it gives a different flavor for your viewers. So
absolutely. And with that, Hector, let's see, I got to send him a PayPal money here. Oh, sorry. Thank you for that, Hector. Appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you for the props. I really, really enjoy that. Yeah, trying to give the fans just a different angle. And thanks to you and your help and your efforts, you're making that happen. So once again, Hector, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us here at Spurs in Focus. Everybody else, thank y'all for making Spurs in Focus your first and only spot for all things San Antonio Spurs. You want to just stay right here, all thin silver and black. Subscribe on the podcast side, which is you got Spotify, iTunes, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, YouTube itself. Spurs in Focus Substack, completely free. Go sign up right now. Be part of the crew. We'll likely be back later tonight. Cross your fingers. Depends on Rudy Campos. He wants to stay up late again for a live show. If not, we'll definitely be back tomorrow to talk about what happened in Game 5. Go Spurs, go. Am I right, everybody? Yeah. So for Mr. Hector Ledesma, I am Jeff Garcia, and now you're in focus with Spurs in Focus.